Hi, everybody. This is Todd Creager. I'm talking today about a couple I've been seeing where it was their problem was escalating and they were getting closer to hitting their threshold where they might just separate, divorce. They've been together for many years. This was a second marriage for both, and they both have had a biological child, and each had daughters. And what was happening is the wife was very um, feeling very guilt-ridden about why she wasn't there for her daughter. There's been a kind of a generation to generation thing where women, the mothers, would have to make up for an absent father and had to do work, but wasn't able to parent in the way they needed to. And so the woman had a mom that wasn't there a lot for her. And then the same thing happened with her and her daughter, and she felt very guilty. And the daughter has some issues, medical, emotional issues, and she has felt the need to really be there. And that sounds great, except for the fact that it's sort of taken over her life, and there's been some mother-daughter conflict, and she's been working full time. She babysits her grandkids, and meanwhile, the husband, who is also given a lot, was starting to feel more and more resentful that she was taking away this daughter, and and his wife's relationship to the daughter was getting in the way of anything romantic. He described this romantic evening he had planned that was totally hijacked by this situation with her daughter, and this was not the first time he felt that way, and he was getting angrier and angrier. Meanwhile, she, who is a very loving mom and wants the best for her daughter, she expects her husband to be thoughtful and understanding and not give her a hard time about it. And you know what happens in many couples is they might have some core conflict that doesn't get resolved. It's like perpetual, and this is one of those for them. There's just one of those things where it's not an easy situation. My female client is really trying to be the best mother she can be, and not trying to let and trying hard to not let her guilt from the past stop her from taking better care of herself. And we have the male, the husband of this couple, who really understands her and is trying to understand her, but learn how to manage his own emotions and to try to be patient and thoughtful. But this core conflict has kind of polluted their relationship, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger. Something had to be done. Typically with couples, what they do is they just tend to keep doing what is their reflex. So her reflex was to let her guilt run the show. And his reflex was to be angry and be judgmental when he was not getting what he needed. And these are both great people. I like them both, and they like each other. But the pain was getting to the point where they just couldn't contain it. And this happens with couples. They just have one or two core conflicts that is taking over their lives. So what I did with them, and what they are doing very well now, is we picked different themes that were challenges for them. Sometimes people, not sometimes, we all have to work on what I call our weakest link. What is the weakest part of me? That is the area that needs attention. Life, when we're successful, is not because we're only focusing on our strengths, but it's because we're focusing on our least developed aspects of ourselves. And so she really started to work on her letting go of guilt, and she started to really work on taking care of herself in small ways and in big ways, from meditating to pushing back on her work so she didn't have to work as much, to doing, which was not as difficult as what she had to do next, which was to set some boundaries with her daughter. She had to learn how to not take her daughter's guilt evokings from the past so personally that she would let herself get manipulated and then be stressed and not take care of herself and neglect her husband again. So she took on this challenge of self-care, and she did it in a way that worked. In other words, when people make changes, they oftentimes they can't change too fast all at once. It kind of boomerangs. But you could see, it's like going to the gym and working out. You don't start with the heaviest of weights, but she has been gradually getting more assertive. Meanwhile, he has been really learning empathy. That is not his strong point typically. He could be very logical and rational, and he is learning to speak in terms that demonstrate empathy. And the more he speaks in that, he actually can feel it. And he would say that he's feeling more empathetic. And his wife agreed that there's been more of his empathy and more recognizing her challenges. And that this has been a lifelong struggle for her with feeling guilty and as a mom and yet needing to take care of herself. At the same time, she has been recognizing how difficult it was for her husband, developing empathy towards him, recognizing that some of the romance that has been missing, her unavailability for him, has been very painful for him. And that rather than take it as a personal attack of him towards her, that recognizing that he was going through something as well. So they become what I call PIPs, partners in pain, and they're developing that empathy. And when people are partners in pain and they develop that empathy, usually the core issues that have been taking away their relationship vigor stops taking their relationship vigor away, and you start to see a strength happening and some momentum. So again, another couple that I'm working with, we're not done yet, but definitely trending in the positive direction that will not only probably prevent divorce, but help them have the kind of relationship that is more satisfying, more peaceful, and more nurturing. What more can you ask? Another success case. This is Todd Creager, making the world safe for love.